I think it's the most impressive group of quarterbacks I've had in camp with myself. I think all three of them are very knowledgeable. They're smart. They all have different, fields of playing quarterback. Like, they're all three very different. I think Jake is a lot more like myself. Move around a little bit in the pocket, but more trying to escape to make throws. He's got a real natural arm throwing motion. Dakota, see the guy with his shirt off. He's rocked up. He's fast. Mentally, he understands it. He gets everything. He sees everything. The ball comes out with great speed, great velocity. And then Mike, man, typical NFL, prototypical 6'4", big arms, smart, understands the concepts, understands where things need to be. And I think all three of them, man, they've all impressed me on different plays. They've all had their mistakes, but nowhere near the amount of mistakes I've seen from other QBs and other camps. And very, very impressed with all three of those guys.
I think they were very excited and enjoyed having the fans in the stands. I don't know if they played better or worse because of the fans, but I do think they played a little harder, and I do think it felt a lot like a game. And, we wanted to, again, give them a little salute at the end because we really do appreciate the fans and this community, and I think the players get it. I think they really get it, that football is important out here and that they have support, and that it's important for us to do well not only on the field but in the community because of the people that support us and how much they bring to the club. So having them in the stands was great, Logan, and can't wait to see a whole bunch more of them in a couple weeks.
Yeah, tomorrow's scrimmage is going to be a little lighter than what we expected, when we first planned it. I think we're a little bit beat up in certain spots, so we're hoping to get 50, maybe 60, good reps. There's some spots that need the competition to sort out some positions.
Looking at this game just like any other game, like it's coming. I haven't really got to have the game time experience since about almost 2 years now, so just taking just like any other game.
I'm going to approach it like every other practice. I've been practicing really well so far, and I think I'm just going to keep that up and just keep practicing and just treat it like a practice, but again, it is more like a game day, so I'm going to step up my tempo a little bit, yep.
There's a lot of jobs on the line, so there's great competition in a lot of positions, and so looking forward to see some separation. Who handles things well tomorrow, who doesn't, who takes a step forward, who takes a step back when the lights come on, so to speak. But there's plenty of jobs that are on the line right now.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised about the timing of it. I don't know how usually these things work, and with Coach Campbell and the front office being this is the first time I'm working with them, I don't really know how it all goes, and thought I had a little bit more time before they were going to say something about that. So, it was obviously great news and something that I had planned, or at least had set a goal to get to at the beginning of training camp, and it's pretty cool to get that done.
Hey, so does a guy worry? Does a guy have sleepless nights when you know that the date's coming? And obviously I know what your goal was, but did you have any of that?
I had it a little bit last night because I was just excited to get on the field, knowing that I had gotten such a vote of confidence from Coach Campbell and the front office, and so and the rest of the coaches, Coach Musimic, and so I was just excited for that because I think every other day in training camp it had just been a lot of unknown and just kind of competing, and obviously that's not going to stop, but for them to have that kind of vote of confidence in me is special, and I was just excited to get on the field. So I didn't sleep well last night.
I know you guys are always prepared, and Coach also talked about the fact that was the thing he was most impressed about was how professional everybody was and how focused you guys have been since day one of training camp. How comfortable are you, and what did you specifically work on to put yourself in this position to succeed?
I'm pretty comfortable. Obviously, there's still a lot of stuff to do. I think, I look at even this past practice. I think there's a lot of things for me to continue to work on. I'm definitely not a finished product, but it's great to see, Mike's reps and see how he's executing stuff and learning from that. Biggest thing for me was just knowing my responsibilities and knowing where other people are supposed to do. So when I was working with the young groups early in training camp, I could tell them where they were supposed to line up, and so that the rep is just a little bit more cleaner and less busts, and the play just kind of gets off and people are at least getting to the right spots. So that was something that I tried to make sure that I was on top of, and did as much best I could watching the older guys and try to learn, and frankly the rest of the room too, just trying to learn from their successes, from their mistakes, and just trying to not replicate the bad things and trying to replicate the good things. And so that's what I was really focusing on for the majority of camp.
Hey, last question from me. We got the news at 7:57 a.m. this morning. I know you guys were on the field earlier this morning. Have you had the chance to talk to any family members or anyone to say, hey, you know what? I accomplished my goal. I made the team.
Oh, yeah. I called them last night. I called my parents last night. So they were pretty excited for that.
What is up, my friends from Canada and the United States of America? This is Mark Perry, editor of CFL News Hub. Welcome to another episode of the CFL News Hub Show, a weekly recap of the Canadian Football League. If you want to be part of the show, by all means, email info@cflnewshub.com with your MP3s or videos or take on anything. To get involved with the show there. Make sure that you subscribe and smash that like button. Spread the word about the CFL. And remember, if you like football, then subscribe to this channel because we'll talk about Canadian Football League in depth. That's what we're all about. On this week's show, we talked to Matt Rose about the Calgary Stampeders and the upcoming CFL season. It's really cool. He gets into his background, how he kind of got into the business covering the Stampeders. We talk Bo Levi Mitchell. We talk about who's some of the players that he thinks might break out this year, and so much more. We get into that interview in a little bit. Plus, you got to remember, we're 8 days from this recording, 8 days from kickoff of the 2021 CFL season. So that means that next week we'll have one more show. It'll be the day before kickoff to the CFL season. And I am super excited. I have all planned up and ready to go for that. We will get into, plus we got yours chat. Question of the week. Who do you think is going to win the Grey Cup in 2021? If you kind of want to leave your comment there, who you think is going to win. And if you're watching on the YouTubes, I'm pointing at my hat. Next week's question is a kind of interesting one, is who will be so leave it in the comments here on the show. And at the end of the show, we'll talk about next week's question of the week, which I think will be kind of a funny one to look back on as the week goes on. So we're going to get into that. Get into the news, we'll get into the interview, and then we'll get into some of your social media stuff. And also, we're going to be talking about CFL Fantasy Football. That is the other thing. Our fantasy league that you can join, just email me info. I have a link in the stream for Facebook and YouTube, as well as in the show notes. If you go to cflnewshub.com/podcast, show-3, but just go to cflnewshub.com/podcast. Go to that episode number 3. It's got links and you can join in there. And we're going to go through picking my team. I got some news on DraftKings and so much more. So without further ado, let's just get into some news of the CFL, shall we? All right, so first up, the Edmonton Elks unveiled their new uniforms, and they look kind of familiar. So on Thursday, July 22nd, they unveiled their new home uniforms. The team's new antler helmets were first showcased back in early June when the news of the name Elks, which I love, became official. Team Old's helmet with the EE logo would be used as an alternative on certain occasions. So then they came out with this on the 22nd, the new uniforms. And we'll see, you get to see it live August 7th. So some fans were quick to point out the similarities between Edmonton's new uniforms and those of the Green Bay Packers. The Elks official Twitter account has even chimed in regarding the similarities. The jersey, clean AF though. A little Elk guy, hey Green Bay, can we copy your homework? Green Bay, yeah, just change it up a bit so it doesn't look obvious you copied it. All right. And there they have it. So they admit it. I mean, but that's the problem is that that's the color scheme. How else are you gonna have a green helmet and a yellow jersey with black letter? You know what I mean? Like how can you flip it around? So it still looks cool. It's similar to what it is, but the Packers changed their jerseys. We got a whole list of all the different Packers jerseys. So Edmonton will kick off their 2021 season at home versus the Ottawa Redblacks on Saturday, August 7th at 7 p.m. MST Mountain Standard Time. So not a big deal. I mean, what can you do? That's the color scheme. that's the color scheme. I don't know how else you would work it around. Maybe they'll change it up, but I do love the name, and I'm not a fan of Green Bay's colors. They're kind of like ugly green and yellow. But hey, that's what they look like, and that's their color scheme, and it sticks out. But it looks like the Green Bay Packers, and they know it. So, oh well. In other news, I'm just glad that they're all playing. So the United States extended their border restrictions for Canada and Mexico recently. So despite the news that Canada will open its borders to fully vaccinate, jabbed, I don't want to say stuff because I get in trouble with YouTube, U.S. residents on August 9th, the Biden administration decided to extend the U.S. part of the deal so the target date for the U.S. border to open for non-essential travel is August 21st, but that can be extended as well as rescinded. That's what's going on here. Just as Canada set parameters of who can enter and exit, the statement also requires those who do travel to have proof of a negative test within 72 hours and the jab. So this is interesting. Number one, as I've talked about wanting to go to a Hamilton Tiger Cats game, I did get my passport all done. I might not get it in time in October, so I'm going to have to look in November or December timeframe to go to a Hamilton Tiger Cats game. The problem is, and I've been very bullish, to use a stock market and crypto term, on the fact that things are fine. I live in a state in Maryland, United States of America, where the jab rollout was pretty decent. I hear anywhere from 60% of the population, which isn't that bad compared to other states. And the positivity rate 2 or 3 weeks ago was 0.5. That was the average for 7 days. I've been seeing 2.5, 3.5 daily over the last week. So basically now we're up to 2.5 in a couple weeks. This makes me concerned not only in here, it makes me concerned about being able to travel at some point because, this will take a while to start to trickle up. Will start to get worse. So, get that jab. I'm not afraid to say I got a jab. I'm not worried about it. You've gotten jabbed since you were a kid. I understand some people, I don't know. You do you. But I have no problem saying that I got the jab and I feel fine. I ran a half marathon and I'm running the Disney Marathon in January. So it didn't affect me at all getting the jab. And I would much rather deal with the jab ramifications than dealing with that long hauler stuff because I don't want any of that. And I know people that have had it with the long hauler issues, and I would take the jab in a heartbeat to dealing with some of the stuff that they had. So I'm just telling you my point of view, but the problem is now I'm a little concerned about not only for me being able to get to Canada and watch a CFL game, which is my mission, but also how is this going to impact the CFL season? They have everything in place. I understand that the players are not as jabbed up, but they'll be kind of in a bubble during the season. But we saw what the NFL had said about their policy when it comes to a positive what and how game checks and forfeits. Let's see how this transpires with the CFL. So everything seems very rosy right now. Fans are coming to the stands. Ticket sales have been really strong. People are excited about the league returning, which is fantastic. We're excited about watching it. But in the back of my mind, I'm a little I'm hoping, what I hope is to see that, at least if I could see it here, then we kind of see a trend everywhere. We haven't really seen that trend everywhere. That maybe this was a July 4th, at least in the U.S., spike that caused these numbers to go up, and maybe we'll start to settle down again. We'll just have to stay tuned. But I'm a little concerned about I'm still bullish that the CFL season will go through fine, but in the back of my head, I'm not feeling as good as I did before. But I got my passport. That should come sometime in October, and then hopefully things are chill, and I can make my way to Hamilton to see the eventual Grey Cup champions play. I like that. And other news, this week. Some changes going on at TSN. Now, I have tried. I am willing to pay the $99 to get to be a TSN subscriber. So here in the United States, if you want to watch CFL games, it's ESPN Plus. So I have Roku, and I use that, and that has the games that will be live. All the games are on there. You can't just watch it on your regular TV. It's kind of a streaming thing. But if if all you have is cable right now and you don't have Netflix, then you're not even watching this, I guess, if you're that back in the Stone Age. So I've tried to, even just 20 minutes ago, tried to subscribe to it. I don't think I can because I'm in the United States. And even if I VPN in and subscribe, I don't have a Canadian address, so I can't use my credit card. Yo, do you want my money, TSN? We here in the United States is willing to give you your money. What's the big deal? Who cares we're from the U.S.? It's because we made a deal with ESPN, blah, blah, blah. But you've got shows that I want to watch, including this one. So Katie Bernis is now the new host on CFL on TSN panel. Katie Burris, who will be joined by CFL Hall of Famer Matt Dunnigan and Milt Stiegel, TSN football analyst Davis Sanchez, veteran CFL head coach and GM Jim Barker, as well as special guest analysts throughout the season. So she is taking over the helms, and I messed this up. Rod Smith, not Rod Black, is moving to the play-by-play. And listen, I'm going to get things wrong. I appreciate when CFL fans nicely reach out to me and it's like, hey, this is wrong. I'll trust me. By the end of the season, it'll be fine. This is the learning curve, and I'm going to try to get it right, but I'm going to get it wrong, and just be nice. I'm trying to help promote your league. I'm trying to build fans to the CFL. And hopefully be a bridge from the United States and even in Canada. Do you just want to have one site that covers CFL football, or you want to have as many eyeballs on it as you can? It will help. So they're changing their coverage around. The network exclusive coverage is highlighted by a dynamic broadcast team. So we went over that. Of course, Dave Naylor and Farhan Lalji, those guys, they'll do that. So she is now the new head person, which is cool. Mixing it up. Getting younger demographic. We'll see how that goes. TSN's exclusive live coverage of every CFL game is available to stream live on demand for TSN and TSN Direct subscribers. I'm not allowed to do that. So that's going on there. So some changes going on at TSN. Getting younger, getting hipper. We'll see how that kind of works out for them. But I think that's a great move. Everybody across the board was excited about this change, which is good. Some other CFL news. Kenny Stafford addresses Jamie Elizondo's comments suggesting he wasn't a cultural fit for the Elks. So Wednesday the 21st, the Edmonton Elks head coach Jamie Elizondo told media members that 31-year-old wide receiver Kenny Stafford was not released due to underperforming in camp. It was due to not being a good cultural fit for the team. Elizondo stated, Kenny's a good player. We just decided to go a different direction. We wish Kenny all the best of luck. Kenny did some good things in practice. There were some other things that just didn't fit. Wasn't a cultural fit. And so we made the decision, and we're heading in a direction. Wish him all the best of luck. Stafford was not amused by Elizondo's comments and responded with a tweet stating, quote, nothing like having your character attacked. On Sunday morning, Stafford took to Twitter to more thoroughly respond to Elizondo's comments, I guess maybe cooling off a little bit, following his release from the Elks, stating, business is never personal, and I understand that, but when you attack my character, that's when it becomes personal, cultural fit. I'm forever a part of the Edmonton cultural. Made Edmonton my home for 3 years, countless hours given back to the community, won a championship here. I am Edmonton and proud to say that. Ask anyone who sat down with me and had a conversation of what kind of person I am. I'm still thankful for the opportunity the Elks gave me to live out my dream. Thankful to the city that gave me a second home. Thankful for my teammates that helped shape me. I let it all out in the field, far from zero. Lace them up. I have zero regrets. Ball out. So Stafford signed with the Elks back in June when starting quarterback Trevor Harris advocated for his signing after playing together during the 2019 season and having worked out together during CFL's extended offseason. This was Stafford's third stint with Edmonton, having played with the team in 2015 when he helped secure a Grey Cup victory over the Ottawa Red Blacks, and he was there from 2017 to 2019. Productive target throughout his career, totaling 194 receptions for 2,626 yards, 18 touchdowns, 70 career games. He's had stints with the Alouettes, Blue Bombers, Rough Riders, and Calgary Stampeders. Wouldn't be surprised to see him getting signed somewhere if they need a veteran wide receiver like Saskatchewan or Ottawa before the season begins. But this potentially could be his last time, because he is 31 years old in the CFL. So the only thing that Jamie Elizondo has been around. This is his first stint, I believe, as a head coach. These are those things that you got to be careful about because, is this a player deal or is this a coach deal? And are we going to get to hear some rumbling? Now, everything is too early, especially everybody's glad to be back. These guys aren't getting paid as much as they normally do. Something to keep your eye on. This is why it stood out to me, what's going on in the locker room of the Edmonton Elks. I like Jamie Elizondo, loved him when he was with the Tampa Bay Vipers. He was always somebody that teams were trying to get to coach for them, even when he was with the XFL. So just something to keep an eye on if we have any, as a first-time head coach, maybe we might choose his words a little differently. Also, in the news, so TSN has this wonderful, we were talking about this so we have a writer's chat room where we discuss all this stuff. And our own Mike Mitchell and others raved about this. So this is a 2021 CFL season kickoff guide. This is a PDF. It's like 72 pages long. So much information. So if you're a CFL noob like me, go over there. I printed it out. I got a binder coming in the mail. I'm going to put it in a binder to be able to just kind of any kind of research stats. It is a fantastic guide. Just head over to TSN and just search up the 2021 CFL season kickoff guide. John Perlberg did a fantastic job. He is the TSN statistician. Something that you want to grab a hold of. Some other quick news and notes. Due to poor air quality, the BC Lions wrapped up their camp a little early. So with air quality and Kamloops hampered by forest fires in British Columbia, the BC Lions have elected to wrap up their training camp a couple days early and return to their facilities in Surrey. Man, can't catch a break. Not that it's, you want to wrap up camp anyways. It's a little bit early. Not that big of a deal. But man, you're trying to get things going, and now you finally get out. And now there's forest fires in British Columbia. Thursday training camp activity at Hillside Stadium is canceled due to air quality, the Lions wrote. Players and coaches will now return home to Surrey and begin preparations for Week 1 in Saskatchewan. The Lions play in Regina on August 6th in their second game in the CFL's opening weekend of 2021. Isn't that nice to just read, coming up? There's no more drama about, the CFL. And, I mean, the money thing was going to be an issue down the road, but that's kind of put aside that we can have a season. And it's just nice to finally be able to just talk about not the business side of things, but just the football side of things. And speaking of football and being excited, the Blue Bombers, which this isn't surprising to me, the Blue Bombers will unveil their 2019 Grey Cup Championship banner at IG Field on Thursday, August 5th, when the team plays host to your Hamilton Tiger Cats in the 2019 Grey Cup rematch, the first CFL action to take place since the 107th Grey Cup in Calgary on November 24th, 2019. There was a couple other times where a Grey Cup was not played. I think it was 2 or 3 times over the course of the last 100 years or so. Fans are encouraged to arrive early, make sure their gates, blah, blah, blah. Pre-game party, all sorts of stuff. Wish I could be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So the Bombers will unveil their Grey Cup banner. Congratulations to them, but you will be losing to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. All right, we're going to take this quick break. We'll get right into our interview with Matt Rose. We have so many Matts, by the way, that work with us on CFL News Hub, XFL News Hub too. So we got his interview, and then we'll take a commercial break and get to your social media stuff. So it's a good interview, and stay tuned, my friends. All right, I'm here with Matt Rose. He covers the Calgary Stampeders for Sportsnet. Thanks for coming on the program, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So what I always like to ask my guests is I always like to find out their superhero origin story. So how did you get from high school kid to being able to be in the sports field, and in particular covering the CFL?
Yeah, it was a long journey, took a year off out of high school, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, ended up going to broadcasting school at Mount Royal here in Calgary. From there, 2-year program. In between my first and second year, I was working at a restaurant, was serving a table, saw that they had like an envelope that was branded with a company that I knew worked here in Calgary, Rogers, who owns Sportsnet, and just kind of mentioned that I was in school. The guy I was having dinner turned out to be my current boss.
Oh, wow.
Brought me in for a little tour, he called it. It was more of an interview, and then so I got a job basically between my first and second years of school. That was probably almost 7 years ago now. Coming up in October, that'll be 7 years. So, just kind of grinded, doing the background type of stuff for a long time in radio. And then, realized that I really wanted to start doing a little bit more myself. I had been doing a little bit of stuff, doing some audio for the Calgary Flames and things like that. But our station wasn't doing much with the Stampeders. So it was a beat that was open that I could make my own. And 3 years later, it's something I'm extremely proud of. I do stamps reports for our station 5 days a week, go to all the games, go to practice whenever I can. Like I am the morning show producer in Calgary as well on Sportsnet 960. So sometimes the timing doesn't work, but luckily, I guess that'd be one, glass half full type thing about the pandemic is the fact that I can still do all my media availabilities and that type of thing without having to attend every practice. Obviously, I'd like to be there so I can watch and, figure things out for myself. But that's just not a luxury that I have. So, I get there as much as I can. I'm there almost all the time. And that's pretty much it, man. It's been a wild journey, a pretty crazy one, but 7 years later, I'm really happy with where I'm at.
Covering the Stamps, now you have that the season's now back in full swing. What was it like for you as somebody covering the league and then things kind of shut down and then that uncertainty? I mean, we don't even have to get into the XFL stuff, but like now that things are back in the swing of things, how are things feeling now after a big layoff before you can start covering the team again?
Yeah, it was a strange 18, 20, 21 months, like depends on what you want to count it as, since the Stampeders, lost in the West final, the West semifinal in 2019. Obviously there was a lot of questions about the league for that first year. It was one of those things where for me, I just kind of sat back and waited for things to happen. Like there wasn't much I was going to be able to do about it. Luckily enough, I have other things apart from the Stampeders that I follow as well here in Calgary. So there were things that were keeping me busy. And, I was checking in with the team every once in a while, but they didn't have much to say, right? Like that was the whole thing with the XFL. Like I really felt like that was just a way for the CFL to kind of like, hey, we're still around. But then, it is what it is. I'm happy that we're back. I'm excited to get fans back in the stands. I'm excited to kind of get back to doing the normal media stuff because I'm not one for Zoom. I can't really stand it. Doesn't really allow you to, get the relationship with the players that you really need, especially in the CFL when there's so many guys around. Like you got to get to know them. So I'm excited for the pandemic to kind of kick rocks and we can start moving into some normalcy. It was a strange time, but yeah, I'm just happy to be covering the league again.
Yeah. So now that things are back in full swing, and now you're at practices, what's the difference between, so first of all, let's get into Bo Levi Mitchell, because he seems to be the guy, kind of the one that's known even beyond just Canada and the United States, is one of the big time players there. I know he seems to be dealing with a little bit of an injury issue, and he's coming off of shoulder surgery. So what's his status for the season?
Well, Bo's been kind of in and out of training camp. The luxury of Bo Levi Mitchell, like you said, like this is a face of the league type player, former MOP, Grey Cup MVP, like the best winning percentage in the league by a country mile. Like the guy's been elite ever since he came into the league. Had a bit of a shoulder issue in 2019, which caused him to miss quite a bit of time. So I had to go to Nick Arbuckle a lot, and he was really good. He ended up signing with the Toronto Argonauts and is expected to be the starter there. So they had a luxury with Nick here last year. Now they've got not the same luxury with their backup quarterbacks this year. You know, they got a guy in Dakota Prukop who has some CFL experience. Michael O'Connor's a Canadian who, you know, he's been in the CFL, but he hasn't played a ton. And then Jake Meyer, who's just come up from the States. So, you know, they don't have the same luxury of having Nick behind Bo. So they're just really taking it easy with him. I think that as we get into that first week of practice, obviously they want to see him ramp up his reps, his action, that type of thing. But Dave Dickinson, the head coach, told us on Monday that he wasn't worried about the injury right now. So right now it's kind of a wait and see thing. They're looking at it glass half full. It gives us an opportunity to really get an idea of what we're working with these three other quarterbacks. But I think that's where we're at with Bo Levi Mitchell. Like he's going to have some different receivers this year. There's going to be some things to get used to. But this team basically, like they need Bo Levi Mitchell to succeed.
Yeah, I gotcha. Now, what's interesting about this season, and it's actually a good time for even some Americans to get into the CFL, is because, you know, the team, took a year off. How does the team look like? I mean, you're only watching practices now versus they did in 2019.
Well, it's a completely different team. The roster's turned over a ton. Like a lot of change on the offensive line, a lot of change on the defensive line. Linebackers are different. Receivers have moved on. You know, the coaching staff has pretty much stayed the same. They've brought in some other guys. The defensive backfield is pretty much the same, consistent at least. Like there's some guys who have been with the team, but maybe haven't been in the role that they're expected to play this year. So there's been a lot of turnover heading into this season. And it's tough because there's no preseason games. So you can only evaluate certain positions to a certain extent because the Stampeders aren't even doing tackling like in training camp against each other.
Oh, really?
Out of an abundance of safety.
Yeah.
You know, like we talked about, these are guys that haven't played in 20 months. We had the Saskatchewan Roughriders with 4 Achilles injuries in a span of 6 minutes before camp started. So teams are being extremely cautious. The Stampeders, in fact, had their first Achilles injury over the weekend as well. So, like, it's something that, you know, it hit Saskatchewan hard, but it became to fruition here in Calgary as well over the weekend. So they're being extremely cautious. So it's been hard to evaluate. And we have to watch from the press box where typically we would be on the sideline. You can hear so much more because, like, you can watch a coach react to a player on the field and you have no idea if that is a positive or a negative reaction.
Yeah.
Like if you're there and you're hearing it, you know if it's a positive or negative reaction. But these guys are, you know, they're fired up all the time. So it's hard to tell from the press box.
And how are these guys looking? I mean, after taking a year off, do they seem sluggish? Are there some guys walking in overweight? Or they seem got a
I
lot
don't know if any guys showed up overweight. I didn't dig in too much with that with the coach. If they did, they're probably cut by now. Just with the way the Stampeders like to kind of run their business around here. Like they've got guys that are banged up, but you know, I don't think it's any more sluggish than I would have expected. Like I'm not watching and being like, how are these guys professional football players? Like
they're pros.
Yeah, and it's practice too, right? Like a lot of special teams, but it's without contact. So I'm really excited for the first couple weeks of the season to really get an idea of what this team is. Because right now it's hard to say. You look around the league and everyone else had a ton of turnover, coaches changing. So, like, man, I'm finding it very hard to handicap how this year is going to go.
Well, it's at least looking at the players, what are some guys? Because I always feel like the best way to really learn about team and sports, I'm as a fantasy perspective, because that's collecting baseball cards is how I learned all the different baseball players back in the day. So what are some guys that fans should look out for aside from Bo Levi Mitchell with the Stamps?
Well, on the offense, the running back is probably going to be Kadeem Carey for the most of the season. A guy who's been in Calgary for a while, someone the coaching staff really likes. The interesting wrinkle here is in 2019, he was also hurt quite a bit. So him and Bo Levi Mitchell only actually played one game together.
Oh, wow.
So seeing that platoon out this season is going to be exciting. I think it brings a little bit of a dynamic that the Stamps might not have had with some of their other running backs in the past, as far as Carey can do a bit of everything. He can block, he can catch, he can run. Like, he can do whatever. He can go up the middle, he can go up the outside. He might not be the fastest guy, but he's still got some decent boots on him. So he's a guy to watch out for at the running back. But the big thing about the CFL is it's a pass-first league. Like, you want to be looking at the receivers. And it's an open slate here for Calgary. Like, it's not like Edmonton where you're like, oh, they've got Darrell Walker, who is like one of the elite in the league. Like, this is a group who they've got Kamar Jordan, who's been here for a long time. He's a veteran, and he's played very well, but he's also had a very serious knee injury where he tore 3 of the ligaments, and he's now in his 30s, and he's coming back from that. So is he going to be able to be the safety blanket that we really think he can be, that Bo really likes to go to? Hard to say. But they do have some other guys in the hopper, like Josh Huff, who had some experience down in the States. Markeith Ambles is another American who's got a shot to really contribute this season, a guy who's been up in Calgary for a few seasons now. Hergy Mayala is a Canadian who played down at the University of Connecticut. He's the guy who, last year, back half of 2019, he had an extremely it was a breakout type season. Like, he was in the running to be the Stampeders Rookie of the Year nominee. He didn't end up being the nominee. The nominee the Stampeders picked ended up winning the award for the entire league, just to kind of put that in perspective. And Mayala only really played the back half of the year, like, in a full-time role. So he's a guy that's poised for a breakout. But I would say probably those receivers, Richie Sindani is a guy who's been here for a while, and he'll get lots of snaps with the departure of Juwan Breskison. But it's going to be a offense by committee style here in Calgary, and it typically is. Like, this team has success when Bo is finding 9, 10, 11 different receivers over the course of a game. So
wow.
He's not necessarily the guy who likes to pick one dude and continuously go there. Like, he likes to go through his reads and find the open play, but he's also a guy who likes to have that security blanket for when things hit the fan. And I don't think we know who that is just yet, but we should find out.
Now, what about some guys on defense that fans should keep an eye on?
The big one for me is Jameer Thurman, someone who was here in 2018 with the Calgary Stampeders when they won the Grey Cup. He was the linebacker beside Alex Singleton, who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles now. Jameer left for the NFL down in Chicago after they won the Grey Cup, so he wasn't here in 2019. And then obviously the 2020 season was washed out, and then he returned in 2021. So he's pretty much the lock at linebacker. They're still trying to figure out who's going to play beside him at the will spot. But he's one to watch out for sure. He's a guy who's come out and said he wants to be the defensive player of the year, and he wants to lead the league in turnovers. So that's probably a guy that fans want to look out for.
Yeah.
In the backfield, they've got a great secondary. Jamar Wall plays the Sam linebacker. He's kind of like the quarterback, the main communicator of the secondary. Royce Mechie, the safety, is a young Canadian who the team is very high on. Raheem Wilson and Deshaun Amos will probably make up the boundary side. Amos spent some time with the Green Bay Packers after 2018. And then the other side, it's probably going to be Richie Leonard, who's a former All-Star that they brought in ahead of this season, probably paired with Jonathan Moxey, who's a younger guy with a lot of energy. And then on the D-line, that's the biggest question for this team, is who's going to get after the quarterback and create some pressure. They got a budding star in Mike Rose in the middle, kind of a, not nose tackle, but for lack of a better term, that's probably what would make sense. And then on the defensive end, Fullerton Rimolade is the guy. Like, this is a team that's had an all-star at that position for a long time, like be it Charleston Hughes or Micah Johnson, or even Cordero Law in 2019. They don't necessarily have somebody with that pedigree this year, but Flair Narimulade is the guy who could be that next superstar.
Oh, good. Now, for fans coming in that are used to the NFL and college game and they see the CFL game, what could they expect? I mean, you said like wide receiver heavy. I assume you've watched, the NFL so what could fans expect watching a CFL game for the first time this year?
Chaos.
Okay.
One of the things that I always say is like, it's good football, but the way that the rules work with the 20-second clock, which makes time go very fast rather than like the NFL where the final 2 minutes can last, half hour.
Right.
In the final 2 minutes of a CFL game, you can have 3 lead changes. These games are never out of reach. A team could be down by 21 going into the fourth quarter, and you're like, this game, like they need 5 minutes to get back into this thing. Because the other thing is it's 2 and out, right? You get 2 plays and you're done. And if you're passing the ball and you 2 drops, you're done. And how much time has gone off the clock? Because we're talking about a pass-heavy league, right? So you're looking at the clock stopping probably twice, and then you got a punt. Like the 2 and out, sometimes the team will have possession for 24 seconds on the clock.
Oh, wow.
And like, that's it. So I always say that it's an exciting game. A game is never out of reach. It might not be the cleanest game you ever seen. Like, it's not technically sound, but they're a lot of fun. Like, they are a ton of fun. The guys have a ton of personality. Like, these are all stud players. A lot of them still think they have a chance for the NFL, and some of them do. So there's guys that could still go down. But this is a premier league of football. The rules are different, which I find creates a little bit more chaos. But yeah, it's a ton of fun.
I'm definitely, and I think what opened up the door for American fans is the idea that, because there's a definite thirst for football outside of the NFL. We saw Fan Control Football League did decent. The Spring League did okay. And on Fox, the XFL did okay. So I think, so I'm really excited to finally watch some live games here soon. So now what's up going on with as far as fans in the stands at Stamps games? Like, how is all that looking for the season?
Stampeders are selling tickets. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the number is going to be as far as capacity or anything along those lines. But they've got room. But the big thing I know is that they are selling tickets. Apart from that, I haven't really looked into it a ton myself. But there's going to be fans in the stands. The question is, how many are there going to be, and what are going to be the rules for getting in?
Right. Cool. All right. Well, Matt, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about the Calgary Stampeders. Looking forward to the season. If you want to let people know where they can find you on the social media stuff and give yourself a plug.
Yeah. Sportsnet 960 is the radio station I work for. You can find all of my Stampeders reports there. They go Monday to Friday. You can find them online. I also tweet them out. You can follow me on Twitter at Matt Rose. YYC, 2 T's and Matt, pretty easy to find. And then the other thing that I will plug is I do have a podcast as well. It's called Not a Draft. We're on a bit of a hiatus right now, but it is me with a CFL receiver, Mike Klukas, formerly with the Stampeders, who's now out with the Ottawa Red Blacks, where we just talk. It's not really a sports podcast. It's a Calgary podcast, but we have a lot of fun conversations. And yeah, if you're looking to kind of get to know myself or Mike, a CFL receiver, a little bit more and kind of understand how they tick, yeah, check it out.
All right, cool. All right, well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate taking the time with us.
Be well. Appreciate you having me.
Here's what you missed last week on the Markcast.
We have a really good show today. I did some really good interviews today while you were at work. Rob Vanstone, friend of the show, Rob. He came on. He's at Mosaic Stadium, covering the Rough Riders. He's there. You can see him he's watching the practice while he's talking. Lots of thoughts about everything with training camp, and then the big reason I wanted him to come on is he had an article a couple weeks ago talking is the CFL doing enough to sell their game?
That tells me there's a lot more that could have been done and should have been done, and that's a few months in advance of the pandemic changing everything. There's some hard lessons that should have been learned before anybody was even talking about COVID.
Darren Gill He is a sports agent. CFL News helped hook this up. Remember that Brad Sinopoli that retired? Big deal. We covered that. Remember Alex Mateus retired? Big deal. We covered that.
Yeah.
Well, Darren is their agent. And so Darren had lots of good things to say about, player retirements, training camp, things like that. What does he think about the season? What was it like?
It presents a whole boatload of challenges. The good news is that everyone's in the same boat.
And then Paul Woods, he's been on Mark's show, XFL Week in Review, but Paul is an Argos historian, and so we wanted to have Paul come on. Paul's got a lot of thoughts about the Argos and the XFL, all that kind of stuff.
Hope that they have a successful year on the field. One of the things that's been a problem is that they can't seem to get consistently successful football teams here in town.
At the end of the day, we're trying to cover every league that is, like, we'll touch on the NFL from here and there, like, the XFL connections and the general stuff. We'll touch on that for the, here and there. But ultimately, man, we want to cover everything that is in the NFL. That means the CFL too. And I'm sorry that if that bothers anybody, we want to cover it in a non-biased fashion and kind of, we want to cover all of the leagues in a non-biased fashion. And if that means the XFL does things that are stupid, we're going to call them out for it. And we only wish that others would do the same thing. That's all we've ever said is keep the same energy. The Markcast is available wherever you download podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google. It's all over the place. It's also on XFL News Hub and YouTube.
All right, we are back, and we want to thank Matt Rose for checking in. Calgary Stampeders from Sportsnet. A lot of good information. Love his backstory. That is so fascinating. I appreciate him coming on. We'll try to check in with him. Check out his podcast. Follow him on social media. I'm really interested to see how things transpire with the Calgary Stampeders this season with Bo Levi Mitchell. I'm a little concerned, and we'll get to that in a second. Now, why would I be concerned about a Calgary Stampeders player and not my own Hamilton Tiger Cats? Well, we should talk some fantasy football. That's right. This is the best way for me to get to know players. I was an avid baseball card person when I could tell you Brett Butler was my favorite player because I liked his card and I liked his player was on a video game that I had. I think it was for the Commodore 64 or something like that. This is going way back. And that's how I get to know the players. I got the XFL cards. I'm definitely been researching if the CFL is going to have football cards come out. So I'll be getting those as soon as they come out. They have in the past. Haven't heard anything about this season yet. Maybe they'll wait a week or two. I haven't heard anything about them getting their pictures taken or any of that kind of stuff. But fantasy football is a great way if you're new to any league, especially a sports league, or any sport you want to get in. You want to get into hockey? You want to get into basketball? You want to get into college basketball? I think they have on there. I don't know if they have college basketball. Golf? You want to learn players? NASCAR? Fantasy football is a way to do it. And one of the reasons why I think football is so successful, at least in the United States, is the betting aspect of it, and it's the fantasy aspect. Now, why? Now, we got Rod Villagomez. He's going to be writing for us. Super excited to have him. He worked with us at XFL News Hub. He's been covering the CFL for a while and the fantasy aspect, so he's going to be coming out with some great content. And also, CFL CA has some good content. But the reason why I think fantasy is important and why it works and why it's made the NFL successful, and I really think if I was the NBA, I would push it. Really the second best fantasy is the NBA. Baseball fantasy is meh, especially daily fantasy is terrible. But football, it's a finite amount of games. There is some level of consistency with the players. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's going to do well. Like in baseball, you get a good baseball player. He could go on he could be on a slump for 7 days and totally wreck your lineup. Or even on your daily fantasy, it doesn't even work. But it gives you, as a fan, engagement with the product. Instead of just watching the game, you have more of a vested interest, not only in just your favorite team, and not only just watching the game, but now you have an interest in other teams and other players and the coaches, and it just kind of enhances your enjoyment and enhances your interactivity with the sport. And that's why I think it works. And I really believe that the reason why the NFL is number one is because it's one of the few television programs where you actually have that interactivity. There is no other one. You don't do Fantasy Bachelor, which my wife and daughters would absolutely do if there was. But football it has that best mix of betting and fantasy spot. So CFL, CA has Ben Kramer put out a list, a strategy list when it comes to, and some players to look at. It's been 20 months since we last built a CFL fantasy lineup. We're going to do that right here in a second. So he goes through the positions, and that's what we really want to see. So on the quarterback side of things, the building blocks, Jeremiah Mazzoli, Vernon Adams Jr., Cody Fajardo, and Nick Arbuckle are kind of the building blocks. Solid play, Mike Riley, Bo Levi Mitchell, and Trevor Harris. My worry is Bo Levi Mitchell is injury situation. Spot starts, Matt Nichols and Zach Corlaros. And then we got the backups there. We don't have to worry about them. Who knows what's going to happen there. On the running back side of things, he's got Shaq Cooper, James Wilder Jr., and William Stanback as the building block. Solid plays, Kadeem Carey, which we talked about. Matt Rose talked about him. William Powell and Andrew Harris. Andrew Harris, another guy who's a little bit older that's had some injury issues, has been sitting out of training camp. A little concerned about him. And, of course, some spot starts on there. And then we get into the wide receiver aspect of things. Brian Burham of BC, Darrell Walker, Edmonton, Brandon Banks, who I like, and Braylon Addison from Hamilton, and Shaq Evans from Saskatchewan. Know about those guys. A bunch of solid plays here. Kareem Jordan of Calgary, which was mentioned, Greg Ellington and Armonte Edwards barely played in the XFL. Eugene Lewis, some other guys, Darvin Adams, Rasheed Bailey from Winnipeg. Some spot starts in there. Lots of guys to pick, and including some backup former XFL guys. Nick Holly, Cam Phillips are some names in there. Cam Meredith played in the NFL. So this is a great list. And then on to the defensive side of things. Building blocks, Hamilton Tiger Cats. What? Solid plays, BC Lion, Edmonton Elks, Saskatchewan Roughriders, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Toronto Argonauts. Spot, you got the Ottawa Red Blacks, Alouettes, and Calgary Stampeders. Not looking good there. So what we're going to do before we get into the social media aspect of stuff is let's talk about where to play CFL fantasy football. So right now, of course, again, remember, I have a full-time gig. I don't have time. I haven't had time to work on this, but there is a fantasy app that I do have for pro wrestling. One of the few. There's only one other out there, and that's fantasy.prowrestlingnewshub.com. It's all focused on AEW wrestling. So there's a draft every quarter when there's a pay-per-view, and then it just does the points. But man, there's like waiver wire stuff, and then there's head-to-head. There's building the schedule, and all these other. So it's just not ready for me to do for CFL, but it will come. I would pretty much guarantee next season. Because it was put on the shelf, and then I was kind of half working on it, and then all of a sudden the XFL, CFL talk started. I started to ramp it up. So we'll see if I get anywhere. Maybe if we get a beta with a couple weeks left in the season, who knows. But it's a lot of work to get it going. But it's got a solid foundation going forward. So CFL has fantasy as well that you can play. And it's free, but it's not like draft your team and then you're off to the races kind of thing. It's more like daily fantasy. And so you're basically the general manager, and I believe a season-long fantasy CFL contest gives you control of your team roster as you look to pick the best player every week while staying below the salary cap. So it's like DFS. Now, we have a league for fans. We have our writers league. If you join our fans league, which we'll be sending out that link. Remember, it's in the show notes and everything to click on it. Whoever is the winner at the end of the season is getting some CFL merch. So I just want to put that out. So you set your roster at the beginning of every week. You select your roster of 7 players from a pool of quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, defenses. Your roster can comprise of 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, either running back, wide receiver, and 1 team defense. Similar, just kind of, we know the kind of deal. You can autoplay your roster, It's got the points breakdown. I'm not going to go through everything, but it's just typical. How this stuff works. Live scoreboard. You can invite your friends. It's not super fantasy or super. And you can earn bonus dollars to help build by getting your friends to join. But whatever. So we got the league here, and let's go to my team. So I joined. You can join multiple leagues. So like we have the CFL fan News Hub fans. We have a CFL Writers League. I thought I joined. Let's see. All leagues. You can join other leagues. Oh, the featured leagues. So I'm going to join the Hamilton Tiger Cats featured league. Before it actually showed you how many people were in it. Let's see now. 377 members. So I'm going to join. You've joined that league successfully. So now if I go to my leagues, there I am. So I'm part of the Hamilton Ticats fans league. That's one of the featured leagues, right? They have TSN, stuff like that. And then you got my league. So, you guys can't really see it as well. Let's see if we go to the social. There we go. So you can see that. So you got the featured leagues is kind of over here. So I joined that. And let's go to manage my team. And this is my team. Which view is better? Yeah, let's go with this social view. All right, so here is my team, and I'm going to build my lineup for the first time ever. So what's interesting here is you got Cody Fajardo is actually the most expensive quarterback. Trevor Harris, Bo Levi Mitchell, Mike Riley. I mean, Jeremiah Mazzoli is number 2. That's a lot of. I don't know. All right. Well, we got to go with our guy. Let's go with our quarterback. So we got Jeremiah on the team at running back. Definitely staying away from Andrew Harris, even though he's expensive. He's been kind of hurt a little bit. John White, William Powell. Let's go with a guy. Let's go with Shaquille Cooper. He was on that list, right? Let's see. Going to the running back section. Where is that? Okay. So Shaq Cooper, and maybe we'll get Kadeem Carey. So we got, let's find Kadeem. So there's Kadeem Carey. We'll get him, and we'll get Shaq Cooper on there. Let's go to the wide receivers. Now, of course, I'm going to have to do one guy, and then this is, I'm going to have to go Cam Phillips, just because I have to go Cam Phillips. Still big Virginia Tech Hokie. My brother went to Virginia Tech, and he's an XFL guy. We'll just throw him in there at the bottom, because usually when you build these lineups, you need to have kind of like a low-end player. And if you have a low-end player, that means you can get a high-end player. Do I go Brandon Banks? That's an awful lot to pay to start off. But I kind of like Brandon Banks too. And you get that 1-2 punch. But Winnipeg's got a good defense. Based on this list, if you go down here, Winnipeg's Blue Bombers defense, where is that ranked? I mean, they're up there as a solid play. So the problem is, who are you going to I don't want to go all Hamilton Tiger Cat guys in there. I don't want to be a homer. But let's go with Kamar Jordan. I think he was on the list, right? Where's him? Yes, so let's go with him on the list. So we got 2 Calgary guys. We got some Winnipeg and BC. Flex play. Well, let's go. I always do this at the end. I always do like a defense, because this kind of, and I always go middle of the road. Do I pick the Hamilton Tiger Cats? Let's go with Toronto Argonauts on defense, and that leaves us with 4,000 for our flex. Now, clearly, it's not going to let us do that. That's kind of, come on. You can code a little bit better than that. So I got $4,000 left. Ooh, it drops at $3,000. Who's a $4,000 guy? 4,012. So we'll go with Jordan William Lambert, Saskatchewan, and we'll go with him. Was he on there? Jordan Williams Lambert. So he was a spot start. So we'll go with him. And there you have it. So this is our first lineup. We have $34 left. We got the positions filled. And there you go. So this is where you, at the bottom down here, you can't really see it on the screen, but you can do autoplay. Each one of these things has got, little news and notes about them, powered by Rotor experts and their game logs and stuff. So this is this is just a good way to get to know the players in the league. The other way to do it, if you want some money, and we are going to do this, is, so that's my lineup. So I got Jeremiah Mazzoli, Kadeem Carey. Got to go with a couple of Calgary guys there. Shaq Cooper, Cam Phillips. Got to go with him. We'll see about that one. Kamar Jordan, Jordan Williams, Lambert, and then the Toronto Argonauts. Now I have $34. I don't think that's enough. Yeah, that's not going to get me anything. So that's my team. I did want Brandon Banks, but I can't do too many Hamilton guys. That's just not going to work out. So there's my team. Now the other one that you can play is DraftKings. So I don't know what the deal is with in Canada, but you can play DraftKings. The problem is nothing is really open yet. They have one featured game. Well, first of all, this is loading. Give it a second. On the top right, the CFL link was grayed out for a while, and now it is back. Let's let this load. So you can see it's there, but there's only one game going on. It's a classic $10 entry fee. They have all these prizes. It's a multi-entry player. Look, you can put 123 entries into this thing. So you can reserve your spot, which I did. There's only 51 people. I was the 51st person. But these are all the different prizes. There'll be more on the way. So first place could get $10,000, $4,000, and all the way down to $15. Now, I'll tell you this, and I played and I did pretty decent in DraftKings last year. You don't win in these kind of things, especially when it comes to the multi-entry tournaments. Those are the sharks. You don't want to play with the sharks. Or the whales, I guess, to use a crypto terminology. You're trying to stay away from the whales. If you're interested in making money, the best thing to do is 50-50s and double up. So you bet 5, and then you can win another 5. And that's how I was able to build up my little stash. I got my wife a couple nice things from my winnings in the NFL. Nothing, I didn't get her like a car or anything. You settle down. But, and it's fun. I'm not a degenerate gambler. I got my glasses on. I'm not a degenerate gambler. I don't need to do this. I just do it for fun and as a way to learn the players. And that's how I really learned. I got a lot of the XFL players was through DraftKings. So you have our lineup here. We'll see how you do. Well, I want to see how you guys do. Sign up at fantasy.cfl.ca. I should probably put that in the show notes as well. Well, you do. You got a link to our invite. You just click on that. You sign up and be part of our league, and we'll win some great prizes. We'll be posting that all the way throughout the season. We'll just keep adding people up until at least the first week of the season. So that's how you play that game. They're both similar, DraftKings and the Fantasy League. There's just not a standard one out there right now where you draft, you keep your team, waiver wire, trades. I haven't found anyone doing that well just yet. And I wanted to be there. This is actually a good time for us to get to know the league and get involved, and then I thought they were going to have somebody was going to have something out there, but they don't, and that's just a big swing and a miss to me as a football fan in general. All right, so now with that being said, let's get into some of your and they also have pick'em games, and we're going to do that next week. They also have a pick'em one, but we'll deal with the fantasy first this week. They also have the same kind of deal, and this one is wide open. We set up a league there. If you want to go over there, it's like pick'em.fantasy.ca, CFL.ca. You want to sign up for that one, you can look up CFL News Hub. That one is wide open for anybody to join there. Same deal. Top person wins a prize. Maybe a couple. It depends on how many people we get in the league. We'll add more and more fans to it. And maybe we'll do some prizes if there's more people in there. So let's get to some social media stuff, shall we? And the first thing we were going to do is talk about who do you think Who do you think? And leave us a comment on the Facebooks, on YouTube. Who do you think is going to win the Grey Cup in 2021? We know who I think. I don't really need to say it. Let's go down the list. A lot of reaction here on the Facebooks. We got Robert says, if not Riders, the Ticats. I'm with you there. We got Ian Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Argos. That would be very big. Could you imagine the Argos winning it, and then with all the little controversy that might be stirring with them? W, going Winnipeg again. Riders, Bombers. Bombers go back-to-back. Do you think, that's another question to leave in the chats, do you think the Bombers could go back-to-back? I don't know. That's tough. With that layoff, that's the whole thing. We don't know what these teams are going to look like. You know what I mean? They could be terrible. I mean, so much turnover, and you heard Matt talk about that. Ticats, there you go. Ken Smart. Ted, Blue Bombers, Ticats, I hope. Sandman says Rona. He thinks Rona, which you know what he's talking about, is going to win. He is very bullish, or bearish, I should say, on the CFL season. We got Winnipeg. I bought an Elks hat. Billy said that. We got there's BC Lions, the Stamps, Kenny. Sorry, got to go. Red Blacks or Riders. BC Lions, Tiger Cats, Blue Bombers. It's going to be a great season out there. Hoping Argos, but thinking maybe Ticats, BC Lions. There's not a single Ottawa Red Black out there, is there? Not a single one. I feel like they might be. Oh, no, we got one Red Blacks out there. Any other Red Blacks out there? Not really. So there you go from the fans talking about their picks. Who's going to win the Grey Cup? I would say it's a little mixture between the Tiger Cats, Bombers, and Rough Riders, I would say. Between those. About the Edmonton Elks new uniforms, Fred calls them ridiculous. I mean, it is what it is. It's a color scheme. How else can you do it? It'd be funny to show up at an Elks game with a Green Bay Packers Aaron Rodgers jersey. Do you think that happens? On Katie Burness joining the teams. Eric says, love Kate. Rod will be great at play-by-play. Solid moves. Looking forward to the season. I seriously will miss the big man, though. Schultze, God bless you. Very cool there. Mike says she's great and it'll be fantastic watching and listening to her in her new role. Nice. Very good. And she is a treat, Greg. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing across the board. People are happy with that signing, adding her, and I think that was a good move by them. Stamps to rest Bo Levi Mitchell during training camp. This is what I was talking about. A little concerned about him. I like him, and he's probably one of my favorite players right now. But I'm a little concerned. But I get it. Chris says, no disrespect, but how much rest do you need after 21 months off? And Scott says, exact same thoughts. Robert says, puss. I don't think so. That's not very nice. On to the Instagram. So this was funny. Actually, I was helping a friend move over the weekend, and this was his moving truck. Venture across Canada, British Columbia. Do you believe that? That was what it was on the truck. And I was like, oh, man, that is a sign, my friends. That is a sign of what is going on with me and what I need to do and get involved with for sure. On to the Twitters real quick. Let's see here. Jenna Reagan at Jackal1353, big fan of the Markcast. She says, as a XFL Renegades fan, I hope he gets to play a lot. Talking about Cameron Artis Payne. He is in the CFL with the Montreal Alouettes. Hopefully he will get some run there. We'll be excited to see what he does. A lot of former XFL guys in there. Really excited to see how they do. They could be bench warmers in the CFL too. We'll have to find out. Alouettes announced the releasing of 15 players, and I got this from at JR Zap. Bueno, a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, wait, what? So I had to use the translator, and it says, my hair is goosebumps without the helmet. I have no hand. That's what he sent to me. Okay. That's fine. Makes no sense. And finally, this was yesterday, 9 more days to go, at JohnnyBoy0123. I'm so ready. Me too. On to some email before we wrap up the show. Now, there's a couple interesting things here in the emails that I wanted to get to. So, Paolo says, Mark, I just liked and subscribed. Here's the wiki article about the Banjo Bowl. Especially read this history. And then he also got sent this video. It was quite funny video about the Banjo Bowl. And because somebody had mentioned to it in the show. So the Banjo Bowl on Wikipedia is an annual rematch game between the Blue Bombers and Saskatchewan Roughriders, it's CFL, after the Labor Day Classic. While the tradition Labor Day Classic game is always played on Sunday before Labor Day at Mosaic Stadium in Regina, Saskatchewan, previously held at Taylor Field, there is usually a rematch on the following weekend between these two rival prairie teams at IG Field, previously held at in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So the history of the Banjo Bowl moniker was coined by Blue Bombers board member David Asper in early 2004, inspired by an infamous comment made by Bombers place kicker Troy Westwood in the week prior to the 2003 Western Division semifinals game between the two teams. Westwood was quoted in the media as saying that people in Regina were, quote, a bunch of banjo-picking inbreds, close quote. I didn't say that. That's what he said. He later apologized half-heartedly for those comments, saying that, quote, the vast majority of people in Saskatchewan have no idea how to play the banjo. That's pretty funny, too. This further fueled the Winnipeg-Saskatchewan football rivalry and has made the rematch game even more of an event. The game is sponsored by the Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries Corporation. The game has been sold out every year since 2005. As of the 2020, Winnipeg leads the series 9-7. So that's basically what they call it. They call it the Banjo Bowl. Despite not being an official event, the Canadian Football League website promotes the game by referring to it as the Banjo Bowl in some of its online coverage, as does the league's official broadcast partner, TSN. So we will have to check out the Banjo Bowl this year, but there's another little history of the CFL for you. That's pretty funny. And I can't play the video that they gave us because I don't want to get dinged by YouTube for copyright stuff. But it's pretty funny video out there for that. So thanks for the email from Paolo. On to Theodore King. Oh, I need to set up. Oh, yeah. Theodore King says, talking about the Oski Wee Wee Hamilton Tiger Cats chant, and gave us an explanation of what it is. I've seen this you said multiple times, but I'm like, the what? The Oska what? Are you talking about? So take a listen to this. Okay, so, and what's up, everybody in the chat? Richard is in there. Oski Wee Wee. See, Jimmy Upson just said it. Richard said, we'll get to those guys in a second. So I'm like, what did they say this? So he sent us a link of what this is all about. So the Oski Wee Wee cheer, first used at Hamilton Tigers football game, was in 1921. This article was a while ago. So in 1921, the Oski Wee Wee cheer was first used at a Tiger Cats game. Back then, there were two teams in Hamilton, the Tigers and the Wildcats. They merged in 1950 to become the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Didn't know that thing either. Significance. Nearly a century later, the Oski Wee Wee cheer is still a chant of choice and is a carryover from the earliest days of football in Hamilton. According to the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, the words to the recitation were written on a football in 1921 with the face of a tiger drawn on it. The original words were a little different from today. It was Oski Wawa, Whiskey Wee Wee, Holy Mackinaw, Tigers Eat 'em Raw, Wow. Over time, the chant became Oski Wee Wee, Oski Wawa, Holy Mackinaw, Tigers Eat 'em Raw. That's what you could hear the girl there saying. So meaning the Hamilton chant appears to be derived from similar ones south of the border used in college football. The Mackinaw likely refers to the coonskin coat of a pigskin Pete characters of history would sometimes wear. The word whiskey in the original version is most likely whiskey as in the drink. Longtime pigskin Pete Paul Weller used to say, I guess the thinking is that if you have a couple of whiskeys, you'll have to go for a wee-wee. So there you have it. So say it with me, my friends. 3, 2, 1. Oski wee-wee, Oski wawa, Holy Mackinaw, Tigers Eat 'em Raw. There you go. So now you know when you see that what that means. Let's do it one more time, shall we? There you have it. There you have it. Now you know. Good stuff. Good stuff. Finally, Eric sent this in talking about the CFL schedule. He said, BC Lions schedule, 1 4 p.m. game, no matinee games. I live on Vancouver Island, which I think they film like a ton of stuff there. Guess I won't have to come into the city this season, not even for a day trip and a game. Thanks for thinking about the out-of-town fans, guys. See you. Not very happy with the schedule there. Let's check into the chats real quick before we wrap up this program. Let's see here. We got, Jimmy says, Oski wee wee. Richard Humphreys going with Red Blacks, Argos, Tiger Cats. That's some of his teams. Hawaiian Punch. Cam Phillips instead of Brandon Banks. Do you even know Phillips makes the active roster, let alone starts? No, I don't. That was a homer pick. The problem with Brandon Banks, who I do want, and I could swap him out. We'll see you next week. I took a flyer because if we look at Brandon Banks, he's the most expensive player on the list. $14,000. That is a heck of a lot of your bank. He's the most expensive player. And the second most is Cody Fajardo and Brian Burnham. Trevor Harris, Bo Levi Mitchell, and then Jeremiah Mazzoli. He's also up there. So that's why I would like to take Brandon Banks, but if I took him, I would probably still have to pick Cam Phillips anyway because he was going to eat all my my salary cap. So that's why I took him. No there. I hope he can make it. Cam Phillips is a really good wide receiver. I want to how many XFL players made a CFL roster. We'll find out on the 30th, just in a couple days. And of course, if Cam Phillips, the thing is, I'm taking a flyer because I know Cam Phillips lit up the XFL, and I feel like he's a guy in a bigger field like the CFL is, and a lot more passing. I really think like his game is geared to the CFL game, so that's why I went with Cam Phillips. Just took a flyer. See what happens. Hawaiian Punch final cuts are 10 p.m. Friday. XF guys are most likely end up on practice squads or taxi squads. They could. We'll see. We'll see I mean, of course, if you look at at least at the fantasy list from CFL.ca, I mean, you can see, I mean, a lot, there's no, former XFL guy. If anything, backup plans, Cam Phillips, like I said, on there, and Cam Meredith, so we'll have to see. But again, injuries and the you-know-what are going to play a factor in what's going on there. And Joe says, Oski. Is it Oski? Oh, I said it wrong. Oski Wee Wee? I thought it sounded like Oski Wee Wee. Hold on. Oski or Oski? Oski Wee Wee. Okay, gotcha. Oski Wee Wee. Oski, not Oski. I guess that would be O-O-S-K. So Oski. Oski Wee Wee. You guys learned something today. I'm very proud of you. So cool. Thanks for everybody in the chat room checking in there on the Facebooks as well. If you want to be part of the show, remember, email info@cflnewshub.com with your MP3s or videos or anything you'd like to contribute to the show. Remember, who will be this is the question for next week's thing. So I want to know who you think is winning the Grey Cup in 2021. Leave that in the comments. Also, who will be the last team to win a game in the 2021 season? I'm going Ottawa Red Blacks as the last team to win a game. Maybe the Argos, but they spent a lot of money on players. So I don't think that's going to happen. So that's it for this week's show. Looking forward to having some more guests next week. Rod Villa-Gomez is going to be doing their CFL stuff, CFL fantasy stuff, so check on that as well. To answer the question of the week. And, of course, if you want to be part of our fantasy league, which will be a lot of fun, and you're going to win merch if you do good hanging with us, and it'll be a lot of fun. And we're going to be checking in every week on the DFS and on the fantasy side of things, see how I did, see who was the top players. We'll give you props on the show for being such a smarty pants. Such a smarty pants. So that's it for this week's show. We're going to go over the pick'ems next week, so I'll be picking games next week as well, and then finalizing my roster, and we'll see if Cam Phillips makes it. I really hope he does. I think he'd be a good player. So thanks. Make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, and spread the word about the CFL. And if you like football, then subscribe to this channel. If you're a true football fan, forget about that NFL stuff. College, man, I want something different. Markcast wants something different other than the NFL, and that's what this channel is all about. It's covering Canadian Football League for Canadians as well as people in the United States of America. Bring them across the border to watch the game. So we'll be back next week with some big announcements. So you want to stay tuned for that. That's it, my friends. God bless. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you next week at 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights. God bless. And I will see you all later.
I think it's the most impressive